And welcome back to the Financially Simple Experience. So I want to say a word to you. And whenever you hear this word, what is your first response? The word is recession. Recession. More than likely, the very mere mention of that word brings about some sort of a emotional response. Maybe it's panic, maybe it's dread, maybe it's uncertainty, maybe it's fear. For the savvy business owner, the very thought of a recession should signal opportunity. And whenever I say that, you're probably like, dude, are you off your rocker? Just a seriously opportunity during recession? You know, in my early career as a financial advisor, I'd already sold a business, and I'd been dealing with business, had dealt with business through a recessionary time period. And when I came into the finance world, I heard the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett, make this statement that has served me and many clients well, served many, many people well throughout the years. His statement was, and I quote, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful." Today, I want to explore the very opportunity that we as business owners have during economic uncertainty. How can a recession benefit us? There are actually 5 ways that I want to talk through today. But before we get to those 5 points, we first have to deal with the academics. The academics is, what is a recession? According to Investopedia, a recession is, quote, a significant, widespread, and prolonged downturn in economic activity. That's Investopedia's definition of a recession. From a technical standpoint, we would say a recession is whenever we have 2 consecutive quarters of decline in gross domestic product. So that's technically what a recession is. But where does recession fit into the economic cycle? There are 4 points to the traditional economic cycle. First of all, we deal with expansion. This is a stage of growth whenever the economy is experiencing rapid growth. Typically, you'll see the stock market move. You'll see the housing market move. You'll just see towns just bustling with activity, whether it's new construction or moving or things of that nature. And then there's a peak. This is the highest point of the cycle. And this is where it's reached this maximum potential. And now it's beginning to create some imbalances in the system. Some would argue there are some imbalances right now as I'm recording this podcast. Some would argue that the housing market is nearing a peak. Some would argue against that. After the peak, there is a contraction. The contraction is typically where the market begins to correct itself. It's trying to correct the imbalances from the rapid expansion. Typically, we begin to slow things down. Higher unemployment and stagnant prices take place during a contraction. And then we go through a trough. And this is where recession is often charted. It's through the trough. It's the point when the economy hits the very low, the lowest, and then it begins to recover. So you can almost plot this as a wavy line on a graph where you have mountains and valleys across the graph. That's the typical classroom definition of the economic cycle. But each time we go through this cycle, there's periods of opportunity. In fact, there's opportunity throughout the entire cycle, depending on what type of business you're in. But we want to deal specifically today with how we as business owners can take advantage in a recession. Some would argue right now that we're in a recession. Some would argue we're not. Nonetheless, it appears that we're going into a period of time where there's going to be some recovery. Some would argue that we're already in a recovery if you're looking at the securities market, the stock market, things of that nature. Many business owners and institutions will tell us, and they'll use pearls of wisdom that says, circle the wagons, go into a defensive methodology, go into self-preservation mode whenever we start to experience a recession. The reality is discomfort is essential for growth. It's essential. You know, as you're growing up, we've all experienced, quote, growing pains. That's when we go through our early teenage years. I can remember my legs hurting so bad as I was growing and I was getting taller, which for me is not very high at 5'6", 5'7". But I can remember growing pains, just growing. We've all gone through business growing pains. No doubt if you're a successful business owner, then pain and suffering is familiar to you. As I go to the gym these days and lifting weights, my muscles hurt there the day or 2 or 3 afterwards, depending on the exercise, because I'm growing. Growing pains is it's an essential part of the life that we live. The way I often equate recessions is to a gale force wind. You remember, I grew up on the coast in South Georgia, and having hurricanes was not uncommon. I can remember many evacuations in my life and saving through some category 1 and 2 hurricanes that kind of clipped the coast of Georgia and watching the winds come in. Just strong winds. And a recession could feel that way. It could feel like a storm coming on us. The reality is a wise business owner leans into that wind. They don't circle the wagon. They don't go into preservation mode. They are greedy when others are fearful. So I want to walk through 5 ways that you as a business owner can lean into the wind, so that you can embrace the pain. I know it sounds crazy, friends, but remember, opportunity abounds. Opportunity abounds. So here are 5 ways. The first one is there's often affordable advertising. You know, marketing is one of the very first things that are often cut whenever the business faces adversity. Marketing is so easy to cut. Why? Well, because it's hard for us to quantify. We realize that we can buy a piece of equipment and we can look at that piece of equipment and see how many widgets or services it's yielding, and therefore that equipment's necessary. But whenever we pour dollars into marketing, it's often this nebulous calculation. It's this uncertainty. We're spending X number of dollars, $10,000 a month, whatever your number is. And we hang out a client the last 30 days. Maybe you should quit that. In fact, from 2017 to 2022, social media marketers saw an average growth of 20.6% on annual spending. Now, that's during the rapid phase. If you look back in time, from 2017 to 22, we were in an expansion period of time. And now in 2023, we're in a retraction period of time, the economic cycle. Online marketing services such as Google Ads or pay-per-click often only charge you whenever someone clicks on your ads. However, the placement of the ad depends on how much your business bids per click. For example, if company A bids $20 per click, but company B bids $30 per click, then company B will receive a better ad placement. Therefore, they're reaching a greater share of the market. However, here's where the magic is. Whenever businesses begin cutting cost, especially around marketing during periods of uncertainty, economic uncertainty, as they're cutting marketing, company A is cutting its spending budget down. And before, where you were having to bid $30 per click, now you're able to gain the same placement for a fraction of the cost. So before, where it was costing you $30 a click to compete, now it may only cost you $10 a click for the exact same market saturation or penetration, whatever you're trying to do within your business. Recession presents an opportunity for you to save money, and it's not an or. It gives you an opportunity to save money and gain greater exposure over your competition, because more than likely your competition will begin cutting marketing expenses, because it's one of the very first things that businesses do whenever they go into recession. The second thing we can do as business owners is we can lean into SEO, search engine optimization, and we can actually gain an advantage over our competition. Again, remember, whenever businesses go into recession, many times they'll cut marketing. Marketing is what drives SEO for your business, so search engine optimization. If you're not investing in SEO at this point, you're probably already behind your competitors. However, a recession gives you opportunity to gain ground, because as your competitors are cutting their marketing budgets, which includes the very people that drive into SEO, not just pay-per-click, but actually the organic search engine mechanisms, you can lean into that and gain an advantage over your competition. According to Ryan Law, the content marketing agency, and I'm going to quote, "Any budget invested during recession will yield a much larger return on investment in the months and years post-recession. This is essentially true when your competitors have strayed from search content and paused in their own marketing efforts. Your slight head start can lead to an insurmountable moat of ranking keywords and new backlinks." See, the marketing community knows that we business owners are very fickle. Again, we're going to cut marketing. Most of us are going to do that very first thing. I've seen it, friends, for over 20 years. I've even done it in my own business because it's such a nebulous opportunity. But when you're looking at trying to lean into the wind, when you're looking at trying to gain advantage through hard economic times, we shouldn't be pulling back from marketing, because that's what our competition is going to be doing. We should be leaning into it. We should be pouring as much dollars as we can, getting as much SEO opportunities as we can during a recession. Another opportunity that we have during recession is expansion. You're like, Justin, that's backwards. We're really going to expand during recession? During a recession, many companies will begin to pull back. They'll draw in their efforts. They'll end up losing market share. And then this is where we can capture that market share and truly we can expand. For example, in 2001, Dell companies grew their sales per unit by 11%, whereas the industry that they're in declined at 12%. So Dell grew at 11% and the industry fell at 12%. In Q4 of 2001, Dell captured more than 90% of the worldwide profits in its industry. What did they do? They leaned into market opportunities, into expansion opportunities during recession while their competitors were going into a retraction mindset. Now, on the other hand, a study by Bryan and Company showed that more than 70% of the market that lost their share in 2001 downturn were not able to regain their positions. So think about this. 2001 was a pretty interesting time period. I can remember me personally as a business owner during that period. And the companies who lost their market share, 70% were not able to regain. Why? Because they didn't lean into the wind. Now, look, I'm going to acknowledge right off the bat, there is some risk associated with entering into new markets during a recession. We've looked at the Ansoff matrix before. We've had a whole podcast on that particular methodology. There are risks. There's unknown. There's additional costs. There's uncertainty. Perhaps you don't have the team in place. Perhaps you don't have the cash in place. You know, I've been talking for years about our dry powder, making sure we have enough cash during good times so when bad times come, when recessionary times come, that we can lean into the wind. Maybe you didn't do that and you missed this opportunity. So I'll acknowledge that if you didn't prepare yourself right, leaning into the wind could be devastating for your company. This is where you need some external advisors to help you. Another opportunity we have during recessionary times is to communicate with our vendors and seek better pricing. You see, we're on the front lines as business owners and we're using suppliers, vendors, different individuals, different companies to help provide the service, the quality, the product that our customers need. Well, whenever there's great times of uncertainty, it gives us the opportunity for us to tighten up our purses. Likewise, our vendors are doing the same thing. So this gives us an opportunity during rough economic times to go back to our vendors and negotiate our price points all over again. It may be that a vendor you've never utilized before can come in at a better price point or can come in at a better service point than your current providers. And so the opportunity of a recession gives us a chance to look at our vendors, look at our technologies, look at our subcontractors, look at our suppliers, whoever you're using in your business, and potentially negotiate proactively a better price. So there is opportunity that we can work through a recession to increase our business's margin. And finally, a recession gives us the opportunity to level up our employees. No doubt you have an inkling of how you would grade each of your employees. I often hear business owners say, this is an A employee, this is a B employee, this is a C employee. And people have different measurements for those letters. Everybody has their own grading sheet. Every business has their own grading sheet. The reality is in most recessions, now this one could be slightly different. We've yet to see what's going to happen through this particular economic downturn. But in most recessions, there is a layoff or there's an exodus of employees that go into the unemployment world. I know right now in the financial sector, there's a lot of layoffs that are happening right now because of the pending recession. And during a recession, many A players and B players are often unemployed. For example, on the onset of the Great Recession in December of 2007, the national unemployment rate was 5%. It had been at or below that number for the previous 30 months. Now just fast forward through that recession, through that Great Recession a little bit, and by June of 2009, the unemployment rate had risen from 5% to 9.5%, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. There was a 4.5%, almost a doubling of the unemployment rate during the country during that recession. Employers took 3,059 mass layoff actions during that time, and it involved 362,000 plus American workers. Friends, as business owners, what an opportunity. You're like, Justin, you always say opportunity. Look, life is all about mindset. If we look at the doom and gloom around us, it's going to lead us to frustration. But as we're looking at this particular recession that we potentially could be going into, as we're looking at tough economic times, then our minds as business owners have to look and say, man, what an opportunity. I now have the opportunity to level up my team. I have some C players. I want to take and terminate my C players and bring in some B and A players into the team. More than likely, if we dive into a pretty lengthy recession, which the Federal Reserve said they're going to intentionally push us into a recession, if we go that direction, then there is going to be talent that we can capture as business owners that will allow us to level up our teams. See, friends, the reality is recessions don't last forever. It doesn't rain consistently unless you live in like Seattle. But no, for the most part, it's never always raining. There is periods of time when the sun's out. My mom just came back from Alaska. And whenever they were in Alaska, they got to see several of the mountain ranges there. And they have crystal clear pictures, not a cloud in the sky, of beautiful, beautiful mountain ranges. And as they were journeying around the state of Alaska, several of their people they ran into said, did you see the mountains? I'm like, yeah, we saw the mountains. Why? And then finally they realized that it's very unusual in Alaska at certain times of the year to actually be able to see the mountains because of the cloud banks that are all covering them up. And for some travelers who just visit Alaska at various times, they had been there 3 and 4 and 5+ years and never seen the mountains. All they had seen was clouds. The reality is, as business owners, is if we're not careful, we'll be like some of those travelers who just make this assumption that there's always clouds. Friends, the reality is recessions are short-lived. There will be another time through the economic cycle where we go into an expansion mode. And if we position our business right through these 5 areas, if we lean into this gale force winds that are potentially blowing at our business, then we can come out of this particular segment, this particular point within a market cycle, within an economic cycle. We can come out of this point ready to explode, ready to take our business to the next level. So my challenge to you is this. Check your emotions. How are you feeling right now? Go back to that word I said at the very beginning. When I said the word recession, did you really garner up in your mindset, man, what an opportunity? Or was there fear? What was it for you? My challenge to you is, as a business owner, lean into the storm. Lean into the winds coming at us. Look at opportunity. Mindset is everything. Look at the opportunity around us. And if we approach it in that manner, then friends, we can't help but succeed as this particular chapter in the economic cycle comes to a conclusion at some point, which it will. If you don't know how to do this, or if you need an outside advisor to step in and give you some insight, hey, reach out to us. We have a team of business advisors that can help you. Till next time, friends, I realize life is hard. Looking at recessions, I'm not living on an island. I realize how tough they are for us as business owners. I'm living through this as a business owner right now. I've lived through these many times as a business owner. You perhaps have as well. I realize that life is hard, but man, life is good. What an opportunity we have in front of us. Y'all go out and make it a great day.